A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. I'm Michaela Fernando and joining us via Zoom is sign language interpreter Brian De Cruz. Before we head into more news in detail, here are a look at your headlines for tonight.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Heavy rains affect over 4,300 across the island. 5 reported dead. Heavy showers exceeding 150 millimeters forecast in several areas tonight. Academic activities of students from grade 10 to 13 begin tomorrow. Teachers and principals protest in Mavanella. China informs Sri Lanka that the fertilizer should have been tested before giving the bids, signing the contract and getting the import permit. Government members criticize government policy on organic fertilizer. Opposition ready to formulate policies based on the 10 great virtues instead of stubborn policies. A statement from the opposition leader. 9 suspects arrested for assaulting the police in Kahatagasdigilia.
News First Headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
In your top story, an event to mark the 54th death anniversary of the late D.A. Rajapaksa was held in Tangol today. The event was attended by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa.
The event to mark the death anniversary of the late D.A. Rajapaksa was held near his statue. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa paid floral tributes to the statue of the late D.A. Rajapaksa after students of the Puak Dandawa Balika Vidyalaya in Beliatta sang a memorial song. The D.A. Rajapaksa Memorial Committee also paid tribute to the statue. Meanwhile, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa also paid tribute to the memorial of the late D.A. Rajapaksa and his wife, the late Dona Dandina Samanasinghe Dissanayake in Medamulana, Veerakatiya yesterday.
In an update from the extreme weather situation here in Sri Lanka, over 4,300 members of 1,143 families have been affected by the heavy rain that hit several parts of the island. According to the Disaster Management Centre, 251 people have been moved to safe shelters, while 5 deaths have also been reported.
Heavy rains are battering several areas across the island. The Akurana town in the Kandy district was flooded after heavy rains poured down in the area last night. The flow of traffic along the A9 road was also affected. The Hiribura junction along the Baddegama Gall road was also inundated. Our correspondent reported that the flow of traffic along this road was also hampered. The water level of the Gin River had stood at 3.2 meters. The flow of traffic along the Wakwella Gall road was hampered after a tree and an earth embankment had collapsed across the road. Several low-lying areas in the Mana district have also been inundated. A spill gate of the Upper Kotmale reservoir was opened after heavy rains were experienced in the catchment areas of the reservoir. The engineer in charge of the reservoir warned residents living in low-lying areas to remain cautious. The water levels of the St. Clair's and Devon waterfalls have increased after incessant rains continued to batter the western slopes of the Central Hills. 3 spill gates of the Lakshapana reservoir were opened yesterday after the catchment areas of Castlebrig and Mausakale received heavy rains. Water levels of the Castlebrig and Mausakale reservoirs have also reached spill levels. Assistant DMC Director in Nuwara Ranjit Alhakon said that the water in the Norton Bridge reservoir is also reaching spill levels.
The Met Department forecasts heavy showers above 150 millimeters in the western and Sabarogamo provinces, also in the Kandy and Nuwara districts. Heavy showers exceeding 100 millimeters can be expected across the island, and fairly heavy showers of 75 millimeters can be expected across the island. Now, due to the extreme weather across the island, 5 people have been reported dead and over 4,300 people have been affected due to the weather. Now, according to the Met Department, they have requested the general public to stay cautious during these extreme weather times. Now, you can stay close to Newsfirst as we will update you on the latest weather updates across the island.
The Irrigation Department has warned that floods may occur in low-lying areas of the following river basins. This includes the Dadra Oya, Kalani River, Gin River, Maha Oya, Kalu River, Nilwala River, Attanagalu Oya, Bentora River and Kala Oya.
In more headline-making local news, schools will reopen for students from grade 10 to 13 across the country tomorrow.
Schools were reopened for primary grades on the 25th of last month as COVID-19 infections reduced. Schools were kept closed from March last year because of COVID-19 concerns. Authorities have taken steps to reopen schools for grades 10, 11, 12 and 13 tomorrow.
What health practices should students follow?
Students must wear face masks, sanitize their hands and maintain social distancing during school hours.
How many students will be permitted in a class? How will studies take place?
The Education Minister said schools with less than 20 students will be kept open daily. Schools with between 21 and 40 students will be kept open once in 2 days or once in 2 weeks. But schools with more than 40 students will conduct lessons by dividing them into 3 batches.
What are the health guidelines students must follow tomorrow?
The main health guidelines such as keeping one's hands clean and maintaining social distancing must be followed. Steps must be taken to conduct lessons for students in batches and follow health guidelines when transporting children to prevent the infection from entering schools. We must take all steps to minimize the spread of the virus and to prevent the virus from being transmitted from schools to homes.
When should students refrain from attending school?
Students with symptoms such as fever, cough and common cold, those whose family members have been infected or those whose family members are undergoing quarantine should refrain from attending school.
Now in some breaking news, Qingdao Siwen Biotech Group, the exporter of the stock of Chinese fertilizer that was rejected, has issued an undated press release received by Newsfirst today, making a clarification regarding this controversy. Qingdao Siwen in the release states that they reserve the right to pursue legal action against the party issuing test reports in Sri Lanka, violating the scientific test results, and also media who falsely disseminate the false test results. Once again, Qingdao Siwen, the exporter of the rejected Chinese fertilizer stock, has issued an undated press release that was received by Newsfirst today, issuing a clarification regarding the controversy. Now, Qingdao Siwen in the release states that they reserve the right to pursue legal action against the parties issuing false test results in violation of scientific test results, and also the media who falsely disseminate the test results. Now, in the release issued by Qingdao Siwen Biotech, they state, quote, "The false report that a Chinese company exported organic fertilizer containing harmful microorganisms to Sri Lanka misled many people and consumers who do not know the truth and caused great obstacles to fair trade and export enterprise," unquote. Now, the company states that what the media and the national plant quarantine officials disclosed, that the products contained erwinia, is not consistent with the facts and that it is a serious smear behavior. The company goes on to note that the production process of this stock of organic fertilizer that was exported includes a necessary process of high temperature sterilization at 600 degrees Celsius for a period of 20 minutes. Now, the release adds that the lethal condition for the detected form of Erwinia is 45 to 50 degrees Celsius and can be completely eliminated in 10 minutes. The release adds that therefore, the 20-minute sterilization process at 600 degrees Celsius, it is impossible for any form of Erwinia to survive in the fertilizer. Now, the statement issued by Qingdao Siwen Biotech went on to note that the organic fertilizer that was exported at the time had passed a third-party certification that was approved by the Sri Lanka Standards Institute. It added that, however, the importer had not applied for the import permit certificate. Now, besides the plant quarantine certificate issued by the Chinese customs on this stock of fertilizer, the stock of fertilizer has also cleared. The plant products have been inspected and tested under appropriate circumstances and deemed to be fit to be used in the importing country or region, which is Sri Lanka. Now, in addition, the company has said that the technical center of Qingdao Customs of Qingdao also tested this batch of products on the 2nd of October, and the results also show that there is no Erwinia in the stock of fertilizer. Now, the statement read that the enterprise has passed the ISO 9000 certification and the series of products have passed the EC Cert and the OMRI Organic certification. The release issued by Qingdao Siwen Biotech states that it is one of the top 10 organic fertilizers brands in China and that it has been exported to more than 50 countries without any complaint or punishment for more than 20 years. Now, the Qingdao Siwen Biotech noted in their release that the company repeatedly proposed to entrust a third-party, globally qualified testing institute to retest the products. The statement goes on to note that, however, there is no response as of date from the importer. The statement read, quote-unquote, "It is incomprehensible that Sri Lanka does not honor the contracts and has misled its people with false test results at a time of soaring global fertilizer prices and shortages."
Taking a look at more local news, while schools will reopen for students from grade 10 to 13 across the country tomorrow, teachers and principals are continuing their struggle, seeking a solution for their salary issues.
Teachers and principals are continuing their struggle against their salary anomalies even as schools remain open. Teachers in Marvanalla staged a protest opposite the police station, citing that legal action hasn't been taken against a politician who interfered with a protest that was staged opposite the Madirigama Mahavidyalaya. A tense situation arose during the protest.
බලාත්කාරයෙන් අතුල් වෙලා සාපරාධි තර්ජනයක් කරලා ගුරුන්ට බැනලා විදුහල් බෙදලා බැනලා එහෙම පාස් දැන් පොලිසියට දාලා කරන්න පුළුවන් දෙන්න. ඒගොල්ලන්ට පිළිගම කතා කරලා කිව්වා. තම ලියුම් යවුවා ඒගොල්ලන්ට නිදහරින් අත එහෙම කියන කවුරුත් ආවේ නැහැ. අද මේ පොලිසියේ ලොකු මහත්තුරු සියලු දෙනා.
Senior police officers have discussed and decided to produce him in court tomorrow. We are asking them to take action. The law must be enforced properly. The ASP of the Marvanalla police has been asleep from the 3rd to the 7th. The protest launched by farmers demanding for a solution to their issues is also underway. We are silent these days. Farmers are a massive force. Do not provoke us. We informed the government and the agriculture minister that farmers in Rajangane haven't received liquid fertilizer. It will take another 1.5 months to issue that. Was fertilizer given to us to begin our cultivation? The children of farmers are serving in the police and the army. It won't be long before we come to Colombo.
හිතුවක්කාරී අන්දමින් මුරන්ලුකාරී අන්දමින් දරදඬු.
It is terrible to see how the government is handling the fertilizer issue in an arbitrary and stubborn way. We challenge them to resolve this by deploying army officers. This government cannot do that. They have failed.
මේ ආණ්ඩුවට බෑ. මේ ආණ්ඩුවට බෑ. මේ පාලකයන්ට බෑ. මේගොල්ලෝ fail.
Farmers expressed these views at a protest near the 5th mile post in Rajanganaya. Tea cultivators in Yakalamulla staged a protest at their estates demanding for adequate fertilizer.
ඔබතුමාගේ අපච්චි නියරේ කතහොතු ආවා වගේම ඔබතුමාලා දරුවෝ සහෝදරයෝ ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙලා ඉවරලා නියරේ පැහැරුවා. අපි අනාථ කරා. ඔබතුමා එන්න එපා. අපි එන්න ඔබතුමාගේ බෙල්ලෙන් අල්ල ගන්න. ඊට පස්සේ අපි කන්තිනු බේරගමු.
Farmers from Yakala visited the fields of the president of the All-Ceylon Govijana Balamandalaya, Gunaprema Samarakon, in hope of getting advice on how to cultivate using organic fertilizer. Gunaprema Samarakon had previously spoken about the use of organic fertilizer at a meeting attended by the president. However, a tense situation arose when the farmers spotted Gunaprema Samarakon using chemical fertilizer for his cultivations.
ජනාධිපතිතුමාගා ඔයා කිව්ව නේද ගිහිල්ලා අපිට රසායනික පොහොර අවශ්‍ය නැහැ මම අවුරුදු 16 ඉඳන්
එපා කියලා නෙවෙයි කිව්වේ. අපිට කාබනික පොහොර හොඳයි රසායනික පොහොර එපා කියලා කිව්වේ නෑනේ. කරන්නේ. ඔයා ඉතින් මේ රසායනික පොහොර දාන්න. ඉතින් ඉතුරු වෙච්ච ඒවා ඉතින් ඛණ්ඩද අපිට? ඉතුරු වෙන්න දෙන්නේ නෑනේ මොනවටවත්. මොනවද දෙන්නේ? අපි ඉතුරු කරලා. ඉතුරු වෙන්නේ අපේ වෙලාදී ආයි මාර්තියට ගියාම පෙන්නනවා. රසායනික පොහොර නෙවෙයි. නමුත් කොම්පස් වලින් නෙවෙයි හිටවලා දීලා. ඔයාලා නිකන් මේ මාට මඩ පහරවල් ගහන්න නිකන් ඔය මේවා කරන්නේ නෑ. මඩ පහරලා අපේ ගොවිතැන් ගානේ ගිහින් අහන්න මේ ගහපට්ටිය බෙදුම් වල ගොවිතැන් ඉඳන්නේ මේ පොහොර දුන්නද මේ පොහොර
I cultivated udu and soya. I saved up a few sacks of fertilizer that I got, and I have about 6 sacks of fertilizer now. This fertilizer was given at the last moment. I won't deny that. I am using that fertilizer on my corn cultivation.
The ship carrying Chinese fertilizer is currently near the Colombo port. Vessel trackers indicate that the ship is 11 nautical miles from the Colombo port.
The Colombo port's harbour master confirmed that the Hippo Spirit ship is nearing the port to restock supplies. However, he said the ship won't be accepted into the port and that a boat would be dispatched to provide the required supplies to the ship. The ship had moved near the Colombo port after passing the port of Hambantota and Galle. Newsfirst learns that the Hippo Spirit ship has placed an order with the Colombo port for 30 kilos each of Chinese cabbage, potatoes, carrots and bananas. Meanwhile, the Chinese embassy has clarified matters regarding the stock of Chinese fertilizer. In a tweet, the Chinese embassy said that Ceylon Fertilizer Company Limited had been given samples on the 28th of July. It added that the National Plant Quarantine Service should have tested the samples before awarding the tender and signing the contract for the purchase.
What is the government's stance on China's clarification?
The state-run Ceylon Fertilizer Company Limited that placed the order for the fertilizer stock said it had not officially received the samples that the Chinese embassy was referring to. It added that the Chinese fertilizer company had only sent 500 grams for testing, although 10 samples weighing a kilo each should have been sent for testing. As a result, Sri Lanka's state-run fertilizer company said it couldn't send the samples to be tested by the National Plant Quarantine Service. It added that the second sample was received on the 28th of August. According to the Ceylon Fertilizer Company Limited, the National Plant Quarantine Service on the 9th of September had announced that the samples have failed the tests. After the Chinese company was informed about this, another sample was brought through its local agent amidst police security on the 23rd of September for another test. This was after suspicions had arisen over the samples that were tested previously. Ceylon Fertilizer Company Limited said the hippo spirit ship carrying the fertilizer stocks had left for Sri Lanka on the same day the samples were sent for testing. Meanwhile, the Ports and Shipping Minister expressed the following views on the ship carrying Chinese fertilizer. As the minister in charge of ports, I have instructed to avoid unloading any fertilizer consignment. I have instructed the officials to avoid allowing the ship to enter without permission.
The ship is moving from Colombo to Hambantota and vice versa. They say the consignment must be unloaded and that the People's Bank has been blacklisted, while the chairman and the general manager of the People's Bank say that payments must be made whether the consignment is unloaded or not. There are nearly 30 million accounts at the People's Bank. We are requesting the employees, trade unions and account holders of People's Bank to stand against allowing the chairman and the general manager to pay $9 million for these deals. Meanwhile, farmers in Punareen in Kilnochi began using the liquid nano-nitrogen fertilizer that was imported from India. 166 farmers were given liquid nano-nitrogen fertilizer in Alankeni last Friday.
Against a backdrop where farmers have taken to the streets due to the fertilizer crisis, a debate has ensued within constituent parties of the government due to the prevailing fertilizer crisis in the country. The following views were expressed by Nuwara District MP Nimal Piyathissa, who entered Parliament from the National Freedom Front, led by Minister Wimal Weerawansa.
The farmer who is supposed to stay in the field is now in the street. Some of the government MPs say that it is the Janatha Vimukta Peramuna, the Samagi Jana Balawege and the United National Party that are behind these protests. I would like to reject that completely as a public representative from the Nuwara district. The present situation is such that we can't go out or declare open a government project. The farmers are scolding us. Therefore, all of us won't be able to walk freely on the streets in the future if this situation persists. Sometimes decisions are made by one person. Some decisions have had negative impacts. If the government is deviating from the mandate that was given to them by the 6.9 million people, and if they are neglecting the very forces who brought them into power, we will have to focus on the 6.9 million people who cast their vote and not this government. We might have to take some action in line with that.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party has criticized the government's decision.
Nano fertilizer is only applied on the surface. It is not applied to the soil or the roots. Nano fertilizer is applied on the leaves. The nano fertilizer applied on the leaves will wash away due to rains. In India, it is sold at 25 Indian rupees a litre. It was imported to Sri Lanka at 200 Indian rupees a litre. What is this massive difference?
We will be right back after this short commercial break.
Incidents of abuse have hugely escalated due to COVID-related stress. Don't mask yourself from recognizing and reporting abuse. Be responsible. Reach out. Call 077 5676 555. Times are hard. Don't let it get harder.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Bellboy's got you covered. Download Bellboy today to get all your household appliance fixing and repairs done. Now available on Android and iOS.
Welcome back to the news. In more local news, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says that the Samagi Jana Balawege will formulate policies based on the 10 virtues of Buddhism in order to govern the country.
We are ready to be the alternative for the current government by implementing policies based on the 10 virtues. We will implement our policies through agreement and discussion instead of state-sponsored terrorism and arbitrary decisions. This government has removed scholars from the decision-making process. The government thinks whatever the decision they make is correct. The younger generation is queuing up in front of the passport office. I would like to humbly ask them to remain in the country. We are ready to give you the place you deserve in this country. The fertile lands of farmers have now become barren because of wrong state policies. In such a deceitful and corrupt political culture, the education of children has collapsed and teachers and principals have been discouraged. Most of the people are displeased with the releases that are being issued in the evenings. One day the government says the price of gas will be increased. Another day the government says the fuel price will be increased. Yesterday they said the price of cement will be increased. On top of all that, the government is robbing public funds through sugar, garlic and coconut oil. The era of queues we witnessed in the 1970s has returned. There is a very abnormal formula at Satosa. I would like to call that the Viat formula. You cannot buy the desired amount of goods at Satosa. A leader of a state has to make the issues of the people his own issues. We are ready to embark on this journey that will provide sustainable solutions for all these issues through a series of national policies and ideal leadership.
The opposition leader made these remarks attending the opening of a Samagi Jana Balawegaya office in Suryawawa. The foundation stone for the Regional Development Bank's office in the Hambantota district and the Kegol branch was laid today. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa attended the event. The Regional Development Bank's new branch is being built near the Tangol Beliatta Road. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa was present at the foundation laying ceremony. This was in response to a request by Shehan Semasinghe, the State Minister of Samurdhi, Household Economy, Microfinance, Self-Employment and Business Development. A shortage of sugar, rice, gas and cement was experienced in several areas today. Some essential goods were sold at high rates in several areas as well.
People of Irakamam in Ampara purchased cement by obstructing a lorry that was transporting cement today. Our correspondent reported that some people who couldn't buy cement in the recent days had purchased it from the lorry. The police intervened to bring the situation under control. Ultimately, the driver had sold cement at the location as people continued to demand for it. Meanwhile, Trade Minister Bandula Gunawardena expressed his views on the cost of goods in the country. This was at the opening of a Co-op fresh store in Gorakadini in Atnagalla. The tragedy of this scale has never occurred before. More than 700,000 people have died in the US because of COVID-19. If leaders of countries must bear responsibility for this, then Joe Biden must be the first to vacate his seat. Hundreds of industries have been affected worldwide. Millions of people have lost their jobs. They have lost their livelihoods. Therefore, poverty has increased in all countries. Malnutrition has increased. All people around the world have been left helpless by the current situation. We are facing a huge crisis in our dollar reserves because of inefficient handling of finances and corruption. Because we don't have dollars, we can't import goods. Because we can't import, we don't have stocks. And that has led to long queues. Not only queues, even the prices of goods have increased drastically. Essential goods such as sugar, gas and milk powder cannot be brought down as they gave massive tax concessions to their friends. For example, we could have better managed the COVID-19 situation in the country if we brought down the vaccines on time and gave preference to senior citizens similar to what the other countries across the world did. We could have reduced the number of deaths and reduced the amount of money we spent on vaccines. We could also have better mitigated the effects of COVID-19. This government cannot do anything because of their inefficiency, their incompetence and their false sense of pride. They have not been able to control this situation because they only think about stealing and how to appease their allies all day long.
Myths were given more priority than science. People keep forgetting this when other matters arise. Pots were thrown into rivers. They said we do not need vaccines. They asked us to drink a tonic. 13,800 innocent people have died as a result of the failure to manage the COVID-19 pandemic. References are being made to a group of people who are being offended when attempts are made to carry out a revolution that was promised. These allegations are being leveled against the opposition. Although they said they had to incur higher expenses, we received foreign loans and aid worth $1 billion. They imported goods worth $10 at $15 and goods worth $2.5 at $7.5. That's a separate matter. However, we have received money from the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank for this. Therefore, it would be wrong to make statements by blowing this out of proportion. When gas prices are controlled, there are no gas cylinders. When milk powder prices are controlled, there is no milk powder. When rice prices are controlled, there is no rice in the market. When sugar prices are controlled, there is no sugar. Similarly, when cement prices are controlled, there is no cement in the market. Please understand that when they try to control the rate of the dollar, there are no dollars either. This is a simple analysis, but they say they have to settle the debt obtained by the previous government. Dear President, do you know what you were referring to as to other people's loans? It is the loans obtained by your brother.
In more headline-making news this evening, 10 suspects in possession of narcotics have been remanded for obstructing the duties of police officers in Anuradhapura.
According to the police, 4 officers attached to the Anuradhapura Division Dangerous Narcotics Unit and 1 other person had gone to Kurukragama in Kahatagasdegiliya for a raid. A suspect was arrested at the location for the possession of 27 grams of heroin. The police said the residents of the village had attacked the police officer, forcing them to release the suspect. Another group of police officers attached to the Anuradhapura police had gone to the location to get the situation under control. The arrested suspects were produced before the Anuradhapura magistrate today. They were remanded until the 11th of this month. The police inspector and constable who were injured in yesterday's attack are currently receiving treatment at the Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital.
Tsunamis are among the most devastating natural hazards which impact nations across the world with coastal borders. When the first tsunami hit Sri Lanka was not prepared. After the devastation we witnessed then, are we ready for a tsunami now?
The annual Tsunami Awareness Day organized by the Disaster Management Center in line with the World Tsunami Awareness Day will be held tomorrow. The event aims at creating awareness about tsunami warning services, evacuation and sheltering during COVID-19. Speaking about Sri Lanka's readiness to face a possible tsunami in the future, Director General of the Disaster Management Center, Major General Sudanta Ranasinghe, had this to say.
In Sri Lanka, we have developed Tsunami Early Warning System, Tsunami Early Warning Network and Tsunami Early Warning Awareness Program. Annually we do this. We do tsunami training exercise, we do evacuation exercise. Over and about that, we have developed our tsunami evacuation programs, tsunami reaction programs and tsunami readiness programs right down to the last mile. That is the international norm. And we are in the process of developing tsunami call and tsunami SOS message delivery. So it will be kind of cellular or the smartphone network system. So once that is also developed, even a sleeping phone will ring, sleeping phone will give the message for the people, okay, it's time that you evacuate and go to the safety center.
And that is a wrap of Primetime News for today. For all these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. Take care and good night.